Young and the Restless. Worst romances of 2025 to 5 couples fans hated. Young and the Restless has seen some true love on YandR, but also some really bad romances. Today, we're going to count down the worst pairings of 2025 on the CBS soap. We're going to talk about the 5 couples that fans really hated this year. We'll count down from number 5, which was bad, and work our way down to the number 1 worst romance of the year. Daniel Romalotti and Tessa Porter. Fans sound off on a controversial YandR couple. Now, I know this is still in process, and it's probably going to drag into 2026, but it's bad. Fans have big issues with Daniel Romalotti and Tessa Porter as a couple for more than one reason. First, Tessa Porter is a married woman. She's hitched to Mariah Copeland, Cameron Grimes, who is going through a mental health crisis right now. Second, many fans hate that YandR is destroying the only gay couple on the CBS soap. A lot of viewers like Mariah Copeland and Tessa together. They've been steady for each other. They've been loyal and in love, even going down the road to adoption. Then they found out that baby Aria was diagnosed with deafness. They went through the process to help recover her hearing by getting cochlear implants done. Of course, this is a soap, and on YandR couples always split up. Mariah Copeland, Phyllis Summers, and the impact on relationships. Daniel Romalotti is still grieving Heather Stevens' Vale Bloom death. He and Tessa have been on this friendship cycle, which then turned into a slow burn romance. But still, it's dodgy. Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, is worried about Daniel getting his heart broken on Young and the Restless, and it's just messy. It also feels tone deaf. Honestly, Young and the Restless hasn't been a hotbed of juicy romances this year. Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, and Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, were teased, but that hasn't manifested, which is frustrating. I will say, I think Daniel and Tessa are good for each other, but I prefer them as friends. Still, I suspect Daniel and Tessa may be getting a lot closer soon because Josh Griffith is, let's face it, a mediocre writer on his good days. The big question is whether Mariah will be put on the back burner, and Tessa moves on without her, maybe getting a divorce. Or maybe Mariah gets her mental health act together, comes back, and fights for her marriage. But yeah, I think Daniel and Tessa are a very problematic couple. Chelsea Lawson and Adam Newman. Why YandR's popular pair fell flat. YandR has taken 2 very complex and interesting characters, taken them each out of much hotter romances, and paired them in a relationship that is frankly boring and with zero drama. Chelsea Lawson, Melissa Claire Egan, and Adam Newman, Mark Grossman, talk about their kid Connor Newman, Judah Mackey. They mostly just do what Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, tells them. That's what they do these days. Chelsea and Adam were interesting years ago when she was faking paralysis and framing him for a crime. Chelsea was interesting with Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, and Adam was on fire with passion for Sally Spectra, Courtney Hope. But he and Chelsea together? That's like watching paint dry on a good day. Backstage rumors, and the future of Adam and Chelsea on YandR. If the head writer was more creative, Josh Griffith could probably make something interesting out of Adam and Chelsea. I mentioned before the backstage rumor that Melissa Claire Egan is one of Josh Griffith's favorites, and that she asked him to put Chelsea back with Adam. Now, whether that's true or not, the fact is Chelsea Lawson and Adam Newman are a snooze fest. I think as long as they're together, it's going to stay that way unless YandR fires Josh Griffith and somebody else comes in and revs up the writing. So that's why they are on our worst romance list of the year. Nate Hastings and Audra Charles, trust issues and shocking betrayals. Let's be real, Nate Hastings' Sean Dominic was too good for Audra Charles' Zuleika Silver from the start. Yes, he used to be a cheater. Nate fooled around with Elena Dawson, Brittany Sarpy, when she was with Devin Hamilton, Brighton James, and then he cheated on her with Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinley. But Hunky Nate has done some self-reflection. He cleaned up his act, and I think he deserves better on Young and the Restless. Audra Charles is not better. Don't get me wrong, I like her as a character. She's complex, gorgeous, sexy, and a schemer. She's had to bootstrap her way through life. I like her character. Honestly, I'd like to see her with Adam. Audra was lying to Nate from day one. He doesn't even know her real last name, which is Cortez. Plus, she and Holden were doing some shady stuff in LA that's going to catch up with her soon. Nate is absolutely in the dark about Audra's past criminality. Then present-day Audra cut that filthy deal with Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, and Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, for a cash investment in her company. Young and the Restless, Victor Newman, Kyle Abbott, and Audra's secret schemes. Claire Grace Newman, Haley Aaron, was kind of right that if Audra had succeeded, that would be prostitution. That's the definition when you swap money for sex, whether it's with you or somebody else. Nate still doesn't know the extent of what Audra did with Kyle. Plus, Audra conspired with Victor to steal a company from Tucker McCall, Trevor St. John, if you remember. Audra just doesn't seem to care who she hurts on her climb to the top. That's why she keeps falling back down. When she was with Nate, I really enjoyed the change we saw in Audra. The softer side. I liked her with Nate. I liked her bonding with Amy. But then Audra went right back to her old scheming, ruthless ways. She basically broke Nate's heart by plotting to seduce Kyle Abbott. I do think Audra actually loved Nate. It's just a bummer that Audra ruined everything. I'd like to see her with a schemer. Nate seems to be on a path to get back with Victoria. YandR villains unite, Jordan Howard and Ian Ward's chaotic romance. These two psychos were together in 2024, and it carried over into 2025 until Jordan Howard, Colleen Zenk, kicked the bucket after Claire served her a cup of poisoned tea. Ian Ward, Ray Wise, is presumed dead, but we know he's not. Jordan and Ian seemed like a match made in hell. They were evil, vengeful, and psychotic. They wreaked havoc. They drugged Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, and drove her half insane. They murdered Heather. Obviously, it was bad that Jordan and Ian were partners in crime. But when Young and the Restless revealed they were bed buddies too, that really upped the ick factor. It's hard to imagine any woman willingly getting with psychotic Ian Ward. Thankfully, he and rotten Jordan Howard are done, but not so good as he's still alive. Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott. Top YandR couple fans love to hate. Our very worst couple of 2025 is Claire and Kyle. I don't think Claire and Kyle's romance was ever really healthy. Claire was innocent in matters of romance but very skilled in revenge, lies, and treachery because that's how she was raised. She didn't know better. Meanwhile, Kyle was a spoiled brat who didn't connect with Claire in a meaningful way. This is the same reason that Kyle Abbott and Lola Rosales, Sasha Calle, didn't work out back was a roller coaster year on the Young and the Restless, filled with shocking betrayals, heartbreaking twists, and jaw-dropping returns. But not every love story captured fans' hearts. Some romances, instead of igniting passion, left viewers shaking their heads in disbelief. From chemistry that fizzled before it could spark to storylines that made little sense, here are 5 of the most hated couples of 2025. 1. Sally Spectra and Aristotle Dumas, the awkward arranged love. Sally Spectra's love life has always been a hot topic, but her pairing with Aristotle Dumas in early 2025 proved disastrous. Fans were excited at first. Sally finally seemed ready to grow past her usual drama with Nick Newman and the chaotic entanglements with Billy. But the Aristotle storyline quickly became one of the year's biggest missteps. The romance was framed as a slow-burn friendship-turned-love arc, but viewers found the transition forced and unrealistic. Aristotle, a relatively minor character with limited screen presence, suddenly became Sally's soulmate, leaving longtime fans scratching their heads. Social media erupted with memes mocking Sally's new love interest, and comments like, "Who is this guy again?" and "Sally deserves better," became common. The chemistry was simply non-existent, with awkward pauses and stilted dialogue dominating their scenes. What should have been a tender exploration of emotional connection, instead, came across as clunky exposition. By the time the storyline reached its climax, fans were actively rooting for Sally to leave Aristotle behind. And thankfully she did, though the damage to this pairing's reputation was permanent. 2. Phyllis Summers and Kane Ashby, the one step forward, two steps back disaster. Phyllis Summers' love life has always been turbulent, but in 2025, her brief reconciliation with Kane Ashby tested viewers' patience. Phyllis and Kane have a storied history, with sparks flying and betrayals piling up. But this particular reunion felt more like a soap opera trope than genuine romance. The storyline kicked off with Kane returning to Genoa City, seeking solace after a traumatic business scandal. Phyllis, still nursing wounds from her previous heartbreaks, tentatively leaned on him. Fans initially hoped for a nostalgic connection that honored the couple's past. Instead, the writers leaned heavily into melodrama. Secret rendezvous, miscommunications, and inexplicable jealousy from other characters. Social media backlash was swift. Fans criticized the couple for repetitive story beats and a lack of real growth. Comments like "This is the same plot from 2018," and "Phyllis keeps making the same mistakes," flooded online forums. By mid-2025, it was clear that this romance had overstayed its welcome, making it one of the year's most frustrating pairings. 3. Sally Spectra and Billy Abbott, the chemistry who? Couple. Yes, Sally Spectra appears twice on this list, and yes, it's deserved. Later in the year, a brief fling between Sally and Billy Abbott emerged, attempting to reignite sparks in the Genoa City social scene. Unfortunately, the pairing fell flat. Billy, fresh off multiple tumultuous storylines involving Phyllis and Chelsea, was meant to provide a foil to Sally's fiery personality. In theory, it could have worked, but in practice, the romance felt rushed, and the chemistry felt like a rumor rather than reality. Fans were quick to voice their opinions. Twitter and fan forums were full of remarks like, "They have zero spark," and "Stop forcing Sally into relationships that make no sense." Soap critics echoed these sentiments, noting that the storyline seemed more like filler than a meaningful exploration of either character's growth. By the end of the arc, the pairing had dissolved with barely a ripple, leaving viewers relieved rather than heartbroken. 4. Victoria Newman and Adam Newman. The repeat mistake. Few romances in Genoa City are as complicated or as polarizing as Victoria and Adam Newman. The sibling drama, corporate scheming, and endless betrayals have defined their dynamic for years. In 2025, however, the writers resurrected a romantic tension that many fans considered long past its expiration date. This season, Victoria's flirtation with Adam was framed as a tempting danger arc, with Victor Newman's family drama adding layers of tension. Yet fans were quick to criticize the pairing as lazy storytelling. Online reactions included disbelief and frustration. "Why are we revisiting this nightmare?" And "This has been done to death." The romance lacked fresh conflict, relying instead on recycled arguments and shallow passion. It became clear that Victoria and Adam's dynamic works best as complicated family drama rather than a full-blown romance. By the summer finale, the couple's arc concluded with a predictable breakup, but not before cementing their place as one of 2025's most controversial love stories. 5. Nick Newman and Audra Charles, the overhyped misfire. Audra Charles entered Genoa City with intrigue, ambition, and the promise of a fresh romantic storyline for Nick Newman. Initially, fans were excited to see Nick exploring life beyond Sharon and Phyllis, but the resulting pairing with Audra failed spectacularly. The Nick-Audra romance struggled for credibility from the start. Their interactions often felt awkward, with dialogue that failed to capture emotional depth. Fans criticized the storyline for prioritizing drama over character development, noting that Nick's flirtations with Audra undermined his previous growth and loyalty arcs. Even worse, the writers attempted to inject a forbidden romance tension, complete with secrets and potential corporate sabotage. While this could have been compelling, the pacing and execution were clumsy, leaving viewers frustrated. Social media commentary was brutal. "Audra is fine, but Nick is ruined by this pairing, and this is why we can't have nice things in Genoa City." By the end of 2025, Nick and Audra's romance was largely forgotten, replaced by fan favorites returning to center stage. Their story remains a cautionary tale. Star power alone cannot save a romance without believable chemistry. Conclusion: Lessons from 2025's worst romances. The year 2025 on The Young and the Restless was proof that not every romance can succeed in Genoa City. Fans want passion, drama, and tension, but they also crave plausibility and chemistry. Forced pairings, recycled plots, and awkward dialogue can turn even promising storylines into viewer frustrations. Sally Spectra's double appearances highlight the danger of overusing a character without proper narrative grounding. Phyllis and Kane's regression shows that nostalgia alone cannot sustain a romance. And the repeated mistakes with Victoria, Adam, and Nick illustrate the risk of revisiting old flames without fresh perspectives. As 2026 unfolds, fans are hoping for new love stories that excite and inspire rather than disappoint. If the writers take the lessons of 2025 to heart, Genoa City might once again become a hotbed of captivating romances rather than cringeworthy misfires. Fan takeaway. The worst romances of 2025 serve as a reminder that chemistry and storytelling matter as much as star power. For viewers, these 5 couples will go down in history as what not to do in Genoa City, and fans are already speculating which new pairings could finally steal their hearts in the emotional landscape of The Young and the Restless. No pairing has been more hotly debated in recent memory than the unexpected bond between Daniel Romalotti and Tessa Porter. Fans have taken to social platforms, comment threads, and fan fiction forums to voice their love, doubts, frustrations, and outright obsession with this polarizing duo. For many, Daniel and Tessa represent an intriguing twist of fate. For others, they cross narrative lines that should have remained unblurred. One thing is undeniable. This controversial couple has sparked some of the most passionate conversations in Genoa City in years. A pairing that caught everyone off guard. When Daniel and Tessa first crossed paths, it was a meeting steeped in business and obligation. Two spirited, creative souls navigating their own complicated lives. Tessa, fresh off the emotional roller coaster of her past relationships and navigating her identity in the public eye, found herself unexpectedly drawn to Daniel's earnest vulnerability. Daniel, dealing with his own legacy of family drama and personal reinvention, saw in Tessa a kindred spirit, someone who understood what it felt like to be misunderstood. Their connection didn't announce itself with fireworks. Instead, it simmered in quiet moments. Shared laughs over late-night brainstorming sessions, empathetic glances across a crowded room, and the subtle way Tessa's smile lifted Daniel's insecurities. Fans who loved slow-burn emotional arcs were intrigued, until the naysayers weighed in. The ship that split the fans. Fans who support Daniel and Tessa often refer to themselves playfully as #Dessa, a name that's filled with equal parts affection and defiance. Across fan pages and discussion boards, supporters highlight the emotional honesty both characters bring to the table. Daniel and Tessa just get each other on a deeper level. Their chemistry isn't loud, it's real. At YandR Heartstrings, these fans point to shared artistic sensibilities, emotional openness, and a mutual desire for authenticity as the foundations of a relationship that transcends the usual soap tropes. For them, Daniel's vulnerability and Tessa's fierce independence create a compelling balance. Two characters who mirror each other's hopes and fears. However, not everyone is on board. On the opposing side are the vocal critics who see the pairing as forced or disrespectful to established character histories. Some argue that Daniel's past romances were more compelling, or that Tessa belongs with someone who more clearly fits her narrative arc. Others simply don't feel the spark they expected from a YandR coupling. I respect them as characters, but I just don't see the romantic magic. It feels convenient. At Genoa City Truth, this division has turned social feeds into spirited battlegrounds, a place where fans dissect every look, every line of dialogue, and every on-screen touch with near forensic intensity. Why the passion? The emotional core of the debate. So what fuels this debate more than anything else? At its heart, this controversy isn't just about Daniel and Tessa the characters. It's about what they represent to different segments of the YandR audience. For fans who champion the pairing, the connection feels like a breath of fresh air in a world of betrayals, secret babies, and corporate power struggles. Daniel and Tessa are flawed, yes, but in their vulnerability there is a sense of growth and healing. It's the story of two wounded hearts discovering that mutual respect and quiet affection can matter just as much as passion and upheaval. I love the way they talk to each other. It's like they don't need grand gestures, they have honest conversations. At Dessa Forever. Meanwhile, critics see the pairing as a departure from what once grounded YandR's storytelling. Some long for the dramatic tension of love triangles or scandalous secrets. Others simply prefer different romantic pairings for the characters, believing that linking Daniel and Tessa diminishes other story possibilities. The art of dinner dates and deep talks. One of the most talked-about sequences among fans was a quiet dinner scene shared by Daniel and Tessa. There were no explosions, no shocking revelations, just an intimate, low-lit exchange over glasses of wine. Supporters hailed it as soap opera minimalism at its best, a moment of pure human connection. That dinner scene was everything. No grand production, just genuineness. At YandR Real Talk, critics, on the other hand, found it underwhelming. It felt like filler. Nothing happened. That's fine for real life, not for daytime drama. This divide highlights a broader schism in audience expectations. Does a relationship need high drama to be meaningful, or can quiet development hold its own in a show built on emotional extremity? Fan creations, from art to fanfic frenzy. Controversy breeds creativity. Regardless of where opinions fall, one thing the Daniel-Tessa pairing has undeniably inspired is fan-generated content. From heartfelt illustrations capturing stolen glances to sprawling fanfiction exploring alternate timelines, the Dessa trend has become a creative outlet. One popular fanfic envisions Daniel and Tessa stranded in a remote cabin during a snowstorm, cut off from Genoa City and forced to confront their growing feelings without distraction. The story's emotional depth drew praise from many readers, some of whom said it helped them see the potential in the pairing in a new light. Artists have also contributed stunning visual tributes, reimagining the characters in stylized portraits that emphasize their emotional resonance. Eyes locked, hands barely touching, unspoken sentiments lingering in every brushstroke. The producers weigh in, sort of. While the show hasn't officially declared whether Daniel and Tessa are the next big couple, the actors themselves have hinted at mutual respect and chemistry in interviews. These off-screen comments have only fueled speculation and fan chatter. Every interview clip is dissected for subtext. Every laugh between the actors becomes proof of chemistry or evidence of a forced narrative. For fans, this meta layer, where the line between performance and reality blurs, is part of the addictive appeal. It's not just Daniel and Tessa on screen. It's Daniel and Tessa as living, breathing possibilities in the imaginations of viewers. Where do we go from here? The debate around Daniel and Tessa is far from settled. Some fans are calling for more bold storytelling. Push the couple into crisis, let them face temptation, or test their devotion in a way that finally justifies the controversy. Others want the show to pivot entirely, pairing each character with someone more traditionally compatible. But perhaps the most fascinating takeaway from this divide is this: Genoa City isn't static. Its viewers aren't passive. They care deeply about the emotional journeys of these characters, and whether they love or loathe #Dessa, they're emotionally invested, talking, debating, creating, and connecting with each other in the process. After all, isn't that the heart of what The Young and the Restless does best? It gives us characters who feel real, relationships that inspire conversation, and moments that make fans, sometimes frustrated, sometimes elated, always engaged. The halls of Genoa City are buzzing with tension, intrigue, and emotional upheaval as The Young and the Restless characters continue to navigate the twisted web of secrets, betrayals, and unexpected alliances. One of the most compelling dynamics currently shaking up the canvas revolves around Mariah Copeland and Phyllis Summers, a pairing that is proving to be far more impactful on the city's relational landscape than fans could have anticipated. Mariah Copeland, long hailed as a strong, resilient force in Genoa City, has consistently been a character who balances vulnerability with determination. Her journey, from discovering her identity to navigating complex romantic entanglements, has made her one of the show's emotional anchors. However, recent developments involving Phyllis Summers have created a ripple effect, not only affecting Mariah's personal life, but also sending shockwaves through every corner of the city's interconnected relationships. Phyllis Summers, the quintessential femme fatale of Genoa City, has a reputation for being manipulative, passionate, and unapologetically ambitious. Yet, beneath the confident, scheming exterior lies a woman shaped by pain, loss, and a desperate need for connection. Her interactions with Mariah Copeland are proving that even the most hardened personalities can create unforeseen consequences when their worlds collide. At the center of this drama is a classic YandR question. How do personal desires intersect with the welfare of others, and what happens when ambition meets genuine affection? Mariah, often guided by morality and the instinct to protect those she loves, finds herself at odds with Phyllis's more strategic, sometimes ruthless approach to relationships. The tension between their personalities is palpable. It's a fascinating study in character contrasts, Mariah's sincerity and empathy against Phyllis's cunning and emotional unpredictability. The recent storyline has placed Mariah in situations where her loyalty and judgment are constantly tested. Phyllis, whether intentionally or inadvertently, has introduced complications into Mariah's romantic entanglements, creating a domino effect of misunderstandings, confrontations, and unexpected alliances. For example, Mariah's connections with her romantic interests are suddenly under scrutiny, not only from outsiders but from her own internal moral compass. Every interaction with Phyllis seems to amplify Mariah's insecurities, forcing her to reevaluate who she can trust, who she can forgive, and how she defines her own boundaries. Phyllis's impact on Mariah doesn't stop at romance. It reverberates through Mariah's familial relationships as well. The Copeland family has always been tightly knit, and Mariah's emotional entanglements inevitably strain these bonds. Sibling tensions, parental concerns, and the delicate balance of family loyalty all come into play, illustrating how a single relational dynamic can extend far beyond the two individuals directly involved. For the audience, this creates a deeply engaging, multi-layered narrative that resonates because it mirrors real-life complexities, albeit in heightened soap opera fashion. Romantically, the Phyllis-Mariah interaction has fueled one of the most talked-about discussions among YandR fans. how the interference of a third party can redefine trust. In this case, Phyllis's involvement, whether through direct confrontation or subtle manipulation, has forced Mariah to confront difficult truths about her relationships. Romantic partners who once seemed steadfast are now revealed to be vulnerable to outside influence, and Mariah's reactions highlight her intelligence, emotional depth, and resilience. The result is a tension-filled, emotionally charged narrative that keeps viewers glued to the screen. Beyond romance, the influence of Phyllis Summers has prompted Mariah to grow in ways that are crucial for her character development. She is learning the hard truths of navigating a world where loyalties are constantly tested and where the line between right and wrong is blurred. Phyllis acts as both a catalyst and a mirror, forcing Mariah to examine her own motives, desires, and weaknesses. The dramatic irony here is striking. Phyllis, in attempting to manipulate or protect her own interests, ends up becoming an unintentional teacher for Mariah, pushing her to confront the kind of moral complexity that few young characters in Genoa City have fully mastered. The ripple effect of this dynamic extends to other key relationships in the show. Mariah's love interests, her friendships, and even her alliances with former adversaries are being tested. Fans have witnessed shocking confrontations, emotionally charged dialogues, and moments of unexpected vulnerability that have made it clear. The Mariah-Phyllis storyline is not isolated. It's a driving force in the current relational ecosystem of YandR. From office politics at Newman Enterprises to intimate family gatherings, the repercussions are felt everywhere, proving the writer's skill at weaving interconnected storylines that maintain suspense and engagement. Moreover, the Mariah-Phyllis dynamic challenges traditional soap opera tropes. Rather than relying solely on melodrama, it explores psychological nuance. Viewers are invited to consider how manipulation, ambition, and love interact, and how even well-intentioned actions can create chaos. The storyline encourages fans to empathize with both characters, despite their differences, and to contemplate the delicate balance between self-interest and empathy in relationships. This duality makes the interactions richer and more thought-provoking than typical soap opera rivalries. Fan reactions have been explosive. Social media is abuzz with debates over who has the upper hand in the Phyllis-Mariah saga. Discussions range from analyzing subtle facial expressions in pivotal scenes to theorizing about future alliances and betrayals. This high level of engagement speaks to the narrative's success. It's not just about drama, it's about investing emotionally in characters whose decisions feel consequential, whose relationships feel real, and whose growth resonates with viewers on multiple levels. In conclusion, Mariah Copeland and Phyllis Summers are proving to be more than just intriguing characters. They are catalysts for relational chaos, moral exploration, and emotional growth on the young and the restless. Their interactions create ripples that extend far beyond their immediate sphere, impacting romantic partnerships, family dynamics, and friendships throughout Genoa City. The storyline showcases how complex, layered writing can transform seemingly personal conflicts into citywide drama, making every twist, confrontation, and alliance feel urgent, impactful, and unforgettable. For viewers, this storyline offers more than entertainment. It provides a lens into human relationships under pressure, demonstrating how love, ambition, and morality collide to create moments of brilliance and heartbreak. As the Mariah-Phyllis saga continues, one thing is certain. No relationship in Genoa City will remain untouched, and fans will remain glued to the unfolding drama, eager to witness how these two powerful women shape the future of the city and everyone who calls it home.